senior leads, our lieutenants, our sergeants, our gang officers do an incredible job. However, the office of police chief is a political position. It is governed by 5 political positions of the police commission, and the authority or responsibility rests with the mayor of Los Angeles. Now, what you may not want to hear is part of that $168 million that goes toward intervention is like trying to entice a member of the mafia out of the mafia with evening basketball. The fact is, many of those nonprofit groups, which are now in existence and under contract, have active gang members in them. And I'll give you one bit of advice. If you are ever a witness at a gang killing, and a gang intervention officer, not a police officer, comes up to you and asks for your name and information as a witness, under no circumstances give it to him. Because there are documentation, there are wiretaps that show that there are some of those intervention people that are giving the witnesses' names to the gangs to intimidate you, not to testify. That's the reality of Sherman Oaks today.
Anyone else? Yeah, unlike the other candidates, I'm going to stay on the subject. The question was about police officers. And the problem we have is that it's a population issue. You got the mic turned up? The problem with policing in Los Angeles is a population issue. People keep moving here, both legally and illegally. The research that I did shows that New York City, with a very similar population, has about 35,000 police officers. We have about 9,000. You see the discrepancy there. You see it out on the freeways when you're flying down the freeway and you see a CHP officer pulling someone over and giving them a ticket, and 8,000 cars go rushing past at 100 miles an hour because they know there's very little chance that they can be stopped or ticketed. Just they don't have the manpower. My solution is that you're never going to be able to homegrow more police officers when the population keeps swelling like that. I think the solution is you're going to have to go out and recruit. You're going to have to, send out to advertise and go to, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and say, hey, why don't you move to Los Angeles? Stop making $40,000 as a police officer and come out here and make $80,000. We need more police officers, and we're not going to be able to homegrow them as fast as we need them. Population is going to keep growing. You're going to have to deal with that as mayor. That's my answer.
Thank you. The second question for Walter is going to be schools. The mayor of Los Angeles has taken over some schools. Do you favor that? Should the mayor run the entire LAUSD, or should the mayor not be involved in schools at all? What should the mayor's role be in the LAUSD?
Legally, as our mayor learned, not by asking the bar, but by litigating a lawsuit for which we got to pay both sides, the mayor does not control the schools, should not control the schools, is constitutionally prohibited from running I'll leave it to that so we can move on to other issues. If you want to run the schools, run for school board. If you want to run the city, run for mayor.
Anybody else want to comment on the schools? Whether the mayor should or should not be involved in the schools?
Sure. Monday, I had an extra letter in the Daily News. What I said was let teachers teach and keep the politicians the hell away from the schools. Because that's the reality. If the mayor was doing such a good job with the city, would we be having this debate? No. Do his job. Stay away from the schools and let those elected, regardless of how their performances, do their job.
Anyone else have an opinion on it?
I'd like to comment on that. I believe that the schools, we desperately need to have video and audio in every classroom. The benefits of that, no matter where we go through society, from a Home Depot to a bank, which has long been the case, we're under video surveillance. This is not Big Brother. It's important. We're being videoed right now. It's a good thing. It'll be watched around the world on YouTube. But the point is that we can see what's really going on in the classrooms so that we can get learning happening. These kids are not going to be failing at 50% failure rate and non-graduating. The other issue is that as a contractor myself, the buildings do not have energy-saving elastomeric coatings on the roofs. All the city buildings do, but the schools don't. The LA Unified spends probably $2 to $4 million a week on re-roofing, and if you put this energy-saving conservation material over it, it would greatly enhance it. Where's our money going? Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have a quick question on schools. Go ahead on it. With 7 kids, I have a real interest in the public schools here in Los Angeles. 7, and they're at Carpenter, Milligan, Birmingham, and Monroe. And my personal feeling is I don't believe there should be cameras and our children should be under surveillance. I already think there's enough fascism in our society, and we don't need to teach our kids that they should be under surveillance 24 hours a day. My feeling is, though, is that there's no competition with these schools and that kids should have school vouchers. But like Walter said, if you want to be involved in schools, you should run for the school board. It has nothing to do with the mayor's office.
Anyone else?
I do think there's definitely a danger to the public education system, and one of those is that teachers are actually being fired instead of more teachers being hired. In the last budget, that's at least what Antonio Villaraigosa has done. So first, that's one of the demands that I'm putting out there in my campaign, is that more teachers should be immediately hired, and the United Teachers Union of Los Angeles should also be empowered to have decision-making, be a decision-making body within the public education system. So.
All right, the question was, should Antonio Villaraigosa be in charge of the school system? My answer is no, period, no. I can't think of a single thing I would want him to be in charge of, period.
All right, next question for David. The budget. Where would you cut? Obviously, the city and all governmental agencies have problems. So, would you raise revenue? Would you make cuts? What would you do? In 30 seconds, no.
In 30 seconds, do a better job. But in reality, you know how many millions of dollars in grants were left sitting on the table because our mayor was out doing other things, the 11% mayor? You know that there should be a specific department within the mayor's office that has professionals that apply for those millions of dollars of grants that we did not receive today. Second, if you want to see where your money is going, see, because we don't have a money problem. There's plenty of money. We have a lack of priorities. When I drive down San Fernando Road in Somar, and I see an asphalt bike path between Roxford and the city of San Fernando on its way to Brantford, and I find out that we are spending $25 million in an industrial area for an asphalt bike path that, if we're lucky, a bicycle thief is using it. That's what happens when you don't have transparency and accountability. Transparency, accountability, reset those priorities, and empower people that know what they're doing and how to get the job done. Give them the assets and the resources. See, my knowledge is not greater than your collective wisdom and experiences. I would rely on that knowledge and those experiences in order to make those decisions.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I would immediately put to an end are sales taxes on working people, such as the sales tax, but also the garbage tax. These flat taxes are not the way to get us out of this economic recession. In fact, what we need to do is we need to raise taxes on large corporations. We also need to cut the budget for the police department, which is over close to 50% of the Los Angeles budget, and that's not where our resources should be going. Our resources should not be being cut for crossing guard programs, for example, as Villaraigosa has done, or even street cleaning services. I know the association does care about beautification in the community, so I think those are all priorities for Los Angeles.
I respectfully disagree with Comrade Alvarez. I think taxing businesses is the root of our problem here. We have driven every business out of our city by imposing a special tax. In a recession, we need to draw employers here. And how do you do that? You get rid of this insane business gross receipts tax, which isn't even based on income. As for spending, boy, is that my favorite subject. Revenues are at an all-time high, $7 billion a year. When Villaraigosa took office, they were spending money at the rate of $600,000 an hour. Now it's $800,000 an hour.